I remember falling into this season of just hopelessness and depression because, like, I'm looking around and I'm like, is this my life? I know I can do so much more, but there was just no way out for me. And I made a promise to myself that wherever life leads me, if I got to a point where, I had stability and I felt like I've created a story for myself that I can use to be a beacon to others.
Welcome, Women of Fort Mill. I am so excited for today's episode. We have the amazing Shereka Johnson being here with us. And Kelly and I are super passionate about not only spreading good things that women in our community are doing, but we also want to highlight really wonderful nonprofits that are making a difference in our community. So I'm so happy because Shereka is going to talk about both professional path, but also this truly impactful nonprofit and the work that she is doing in our community and how we can all get involved. So Shereka, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be given this opportunity to be on your podcast and to widen the reach. That's always the goal.
Well, it's easy to widen the reach when you are doing good things and make an impact. There's so much negativity and awful things happening in the world that when we can highlight good things going on and people that are truly difference makers, that's a joy. And that's what we want to spread more of is love and impact. So I know you are a leader in the community. You're director of Beyond a Dream. Can you share with us a little bit about your journey and your path, both professionally and personally? How did you get to this place and where do you feel the calling came from to start this nonprofit?
Okay. So I'm going to touch base on who I am personally outside of all that, and then I'll get right into it and my journey. So outside of the title of Executive Director for Beyond a Dream Inc., I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I am a food lover, and maybe that's because I'm Jamaican, I don't know. And I love to help people to see what's possible for their lives. I'm someone who believes deeply in growth in every aspect, whether it's personal, whether it's family, whether it's community, or whether it's professional. I think I'm very grounded in purpose and service. I care about people, and I believe that as human beings, we are morally obligated to help. In terms of inspiration for my journey and what keeps me going today, my journey started from me just being a young adult with these big dreams and, always being told that, oh, you have the potential, you have the capabilities, but I never saw opportunity. And that is in part, I grew up in Jamaica. It's a small island with limited opportunity. So I remember falling into this season of just hopelessness and depression because, like, I'm looking around and I'm like, is this my life? I know I can do so much more, but there was just no way out for me. And I made a promise to myself that wherever life leads me, if I got to a point where, I had stability and I felt like I've created a story for myself that I can use to be a beacon to others, then I would do that. And my friends make fun of me all the time because they say there's nothing minimalist about me. When I'm doing something, I go big. So of course, here I am with this little promise to myself that I'm going to help one youth or one child somewhere. And I'm like, why not go big? Why not do it on a grand scale? And that's how Beyond the Dream Inc. was born. It came from that one tiny promise that I was going to help anyone who felt what I felt in that period of my life, help them to realize, this is your capability, but beyond that, here is where you can get help. Here are the people that can help you. Here is how you prepare for the next phase of your life. And what keeps me going today is the impact. The journey has been long and slow, very slow, but knowing that once I get to that peak, that point of success, if it's only to help one person, the promise of such an impact gives me courage, gives me strength and fuel that I need to push forward daily. So that's why I'm still doing the work that I do. And Beyond the Dream Inc., we're here to empower children, youth, and even adults, and especially those in overlooked communities, because it's no secret that Where you live or where you were born, it does have an impact on what the outlook of your life is. So we put a little bit of emphasis on kids in overlooked or underserved communities, and we try to support these communities with education pathways, mentorship, and just overall purpose-driven programming and initiatives.
So, how far is the reach right now, knowing that your focus is on underserved, overlooked, and communities where if I'm a child growing up in this kind of environment and in this location, I'm already going to feel like I'm at a disadvantage? What's the reach in comparison to Fort Mill? Like, how vast and broad does the nonprofit go?
So when we were initially formed, my sights were set on Jamaica specifically and the Caribbean. We're tagged as third world countries. So, right there and then you're thinking, okay, the need is greater. But as the organization continues to form these partnerships with local organizations here in Rocky Hill and in South Carolina as a whole, you realize that the need is here too. So why we have shifted, well, not shifted focus, but we are incorporating locally, so York County, and we also continue to try and support rural areas in Jamaica as a pilot. And the hope is that as we grow, our reach will grow with us. We've had a very promising couple of weeks. We've met with a few local government organizations, and with the promise of partnership and continued support, we think that for 2026 we'll be able to pilot one of our flagship initiatives so that we can, alas, see tangible evidence of what our impact is.
So, can you give me an example? What does this look like? Because I think for anyone that, based on how they grew up, can immediately resonate and say, that was me. I felt like I was at a huge disadvantage based on the family I grew up on, or what I saw, or my conditions. And maybe I had a mentor that believed in me, or I had a teacher, and that helped me get beyond that mindset that my family kind of imposes on you. Like, well, you can't do these things because we're at this income bracket, or we're at this location. There's not that opportunity there. So, children have this enormous amount of faith and belief, and then the world and people crush it, sometimes unintentionally. So what does it look like, say, in the different communities that you're in Jamaica? How do you work with children specifically and these families to help keep that fuel that they're born with going and evolve into helping them with the gifts that they were born with to live them out?
Right. So our flagship initiative is called the 3P Project. And it's built on this idea that the 3Ps is passion, planning, and pursuit. So if you master these three things, you're on a good route to getting where you need to be. So the model comes as a half-day workshop that will be conducted within schools from middle school to high school. And within these workshops, we are doing guided activities that, one, we help kids to answer the question, who am I? Because the truth is, you can't know where you're going until you know who you are. So it's answering the question, what are my passions? What am I naturally good at? What am I interested in, but I don't have the natural talents for? So you help to give them purpose. And then there's planning. Nothing gets done if you don't know how to plan. And we can plan a lot of things, but a lot of kids don't know how to plan intentionally. So it's not just putting unrealistic ideas on paper. Not to say your dream isn't something to be pursued, but in the real world, there are realistic dreams and there aren't. So it's putting those things on paper, and then all of that is null and void if you can provide pathways. So when we get to the pursuit, it's like, all right, I know who I am, I know what I want, but how do I get there? So if you know that you want to be a HVAC technician, we've already mapped out the plan to get there, but you can't get there alone. And this is where mentorship comes in. This is where networking comes in. So we try to connect these kids with people maybe in the same industry, people who have shared experience of their journey, but people who help to combat all the other noise that these kids are here. Oh, we don't have the money. Oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you're not talented enough. So we have those people in their corner to help to bring them to the finish line.
This is incredible. Like, one of the saddest things to me is what we're all born and this belief and how divine and gifted and beautiful and just how much opportunity we're born with in our hearts. And then our ideas, when shared, get squashed. We look around and we don't see hope. And one person coming in or attending something like this through school can change the trajectory of your life.
Yes.
And that goodness that each child is born with can come to light instead of just being, walked over. And it's so sad to see, because I think a lot of adults are trying to get that back. They're trying to get the passion in their lives back and purpose when we're born with it, but it just gets
Yes.
crushed. So I so love the work that you are doing. How do people get involved? If they are hearing you speak and say, okay, well, what can I do? I'm in South Carolina, or maybe they're listening in another state. What are the ways that they can get involved, both personally or monetarily, or how can people support?
So, like every nonprofit, funding is our biggest challenge. So, if you're someone who you have the means, if you're an individual, if you're an organization who is looking to make philanthropic commitments for 2026 and beyond, definitely, if you're so moved, donations are always accepted. Beyond that, we need volunteers. We need volunteers who could fit the seats of mentors or guest speakers, or, if you have connections, if, you're a community driven person yourself and you've built your own network that you think can be of value to this nonprofit, then we would love to be connected with the people or the organizations that that will help to push our missions forward. It's also when we have events, supporting our events, supporting workshop, sharing our mission. I've learned that word of mouth is powerful. So if you're listening today or watching this podcast, when this resonates with you, if you were me a couple years ago feeling that hopelessness and you knew you could have benefited from a program like ours, definitely, spread the word. Connect us with schools, connect us with churches, youth groups, whatever you can do. It's never too small, never too minimal, because it really takes a village. Like, we can't do this alone. And like, to allude to what you said earlier, there's so much distraction, negativity going on around us. And I found that those are the things that get pushed, like gets traction and views and support. So when it comes to things like this, it is hard for us to rise above the noise. So I'm appealing to the community to help us do that, help us drown out everything else and give our kids hope, because they are the next adult, they're the next workforce, they're the next leaders, and we have to start now. Early intervention is protection. Like, we have to start now to get them feeling empowered and capable and ready to be their best adult selves.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because for every parent that has felt concerned about the direction of not just our nation, but the world, and thinking about what world are my kids growing up in now and what will it look like in 10 years? What are our controllables? And it's how we empower our children, and then the difference that we're making to push more good, love, passion, people that don't have fear to do not only the right thing, but live out what their passion is. So many people don't do things out of fear, but if we can raise a generation that never operates out of fear, that always does the right thing and stands up for others, that could change the future. Like, those are the things that we're in control of and that have enormous impact. We just forget because we're thinking, oh, what can I do? I'm
What can little me
I
do?
can't stop the horrible things from happening. I mean, I've been guilty of thinking that too. And you just get into a depressed state of, this is terrible, and you just crouch down and just like, okay, let me protect, instead of, okay, what can I do? Starting with, do I have time? Great. How can I donate that? If I don't have time, but I have monetary resources, great. I can further the mission that way. And just looking at, what am I called to do that I can figure out that's pushing this forward? In anyone that is in a leadership position, whether you have a nonprofit or a business, that you have to have skills that can bring people together. So what would you attribute your leadership skills and, what are some of the things both on the personal side or professional that helped you develop those to be able to effectively run this nonprofit and bring people together?
So, from the personal standpoint, I'm going to start with my mom. So, from I was young, my mom used to say every week, or maybe even every day when I was leaving for school, you're destined for greatness. You're destined for greatness. And that's what empowers me. And sometimes I say to myself, okay, is this what greatness looks like? Am I doing it? Like, do I need to do more? Like, so when I sat with the idea of the nonprofit and I'm like, oh, is this where I need to go? Can I do it? I remembered my mom's words, you are destined for greatness. I've never forgotten it. And then on the professional side, my professional network is my anchor. I was fortunate to have a boss a couple years ago when I was living in Massachusetts, and she taught me the value of networking and mentorship. And I carried that with me. And as I grew professionally, I continued to build and stack my network. So any topic, any industry, any skill set, any subject matter, I have someone that I could go into my network and be like, okay, this is my person. If today I'm confused about what certificate do I want to get this year, I know who I can call to say, I'm thinking about these things from an industry standpoint. What do you think? So my mom and my professional network are definitely where I pull my capabilities from.
Well, that speaks volumes as to the kind of woman that your mom was and the impact that every mom can have. That those words that we speak to ourselves, that our children are listening to, and directly to them, that it carries through. It's easy to think that our words don't have as much weight as they do. But the fact that that has carried you your whole life, and anytime you doubted or thought, am I really living in my purpose? Am I really doing great things? That's what you've leaned on. And then for that boss, I mean, what an opportunity. I think a lot of people take for granted, even if you're in a regular corporate structure and you're not running a business, you still have that same opportunity to impact the people that you're
Yes.
leading. And it is the coolest thing to know the multiplication of how we give, how we interact, and how we impact other people's lives that it can have. We just don't realize
Yes.
until you bring it up. And even if that was the one thing that people took from this and said, you know what? How can I make an impact just through what I say, how I interact with others? What about my network? Would it be helpful to Shereka? Something as simple as that we just discount and don't think means that much. I can see now why you are so passionate, because you have lived, you're the result of other people
Yes.
positively impacting your life.
Yes. That is exactly it. And, I'm always cognizant of how I interact with whomever, what I do, even as far as my comments on social media. I always pause first and I think, if I say this one thing, how will one person read it and feel? How will they act? And, that's something I wish more of us would do. Like, you're one little particle in this whole big world, but yet everything you do has a domino effect. So you determine what you want your effect to look like. It's gonna either be positive or negative. But best believe we don't go about with no impact to society or people around us. Even when we don't know it's happening, it's happening. So just always make sure it's for the good. Be kind in your words. Be thoughtful. Help. Just be a good human. That's the words to live by.
Yeah, you're convicting me, Shereka. I live that out because I'm like, you know what? There's so much negativity that everybody's posting. I'm only going to post positive things. Just this week, I'm like, I've had it with this, and I posted a few things that are happening. But then after that, I posted, but these are good things happening in the world.
Right.
But forgetting that, you know what? Am I contributing to the negative dialogue, even if these things are true and they are happening and they are going on? Plenty of people are talking about them. So I probably don't need to be a second voice.
Right.
What does the world need and our community need? It is life, love, joy, passion, and creating real change by, taking your passion, creating a plan, and then pursuing it. And that's how we change the world. And it's easy to think, oh, well, I'm not in this position, or I'm not in politics and I can't create the real change. There are so many more of us who are not in that position than the politicians. So we come together and we create good. We can change everything. There's more power that we don't realize, probably because we're living in this self-limiting mindset, things that others or ourselves have taught us. And you're
Right.
changing it. You're changing how kids see
Try
themselves
it.
and ultimately how the next generation does. So thank you so much for sharing your story, your heart behind what you do, not only here locally, but in Jamaica and for your own children. And how many children do you have?
I have two. I have an 8-year-old and I have a 16-year-old.
Well, knowing that there are many yous duplicating what they're seeing you live out, becoming a parent, I have a 3.5-year-old, but your whole life changes and success can mean a lot of different things, obviously professionally or in personal growth, success that you see there. But once you become a parent, I think one of the greatest successes becomes, do I have a good human? Have I raised someone that is a change maker, that isn't going to be a follower, that is going to live out their passion? To me, that is now one of the greatest successes. So what would you consider, just in closing, a success over these next few years based on the initiatives? What are a couple of benchmarks that you have in your plan to say, when we hit these things, I know the domino effect means this. So what's a quick snapshot of success over the next few years for Beyond a Dream?
So success for us firstly would look behavioral. So we want to see a change in how, whether it's elementary, middle, high school, how kids see themselves. We want to see a change in how they interact in the digital space. We want to see more involvement from the community. We want to hear people speak in our language of early intervention, our language of kindness, our language of instilling positive energy in our youths. In terms of tangible success, what that looks like for us is strengthened partnership with community organizations, whether private or government, and it's having a good, solid volunteer base. That's something like people, it's hard to find time. So when you find someone who is willing to volunteer their time, it's a really big deal. So we need to see more volunteers coming forward, being ready to help in whatever way they can. And of course, successfully piloting the 3P project. That's our objective for 2026. So going past 2026, we're hoping that we have a successful model where we can have annual commitment from our donor partners to ensure that we can move this model throughout different schools across the nation and even offshore.
Well, that's an invitation to all of us. Let's do our part to further that, because I don't know anyone that wouldn't get behind that mission and say, this will make a difference. And we can do that. I mean, you've led the way. You've put the hard work in and broken down some of the barriers already. So the support that we can all provide will make that happen. So thank you so much. I am just so grateful that you're willing to share your heart. I mean, we haven't even talked about some of the challenges and hurdles that have come up as through this journey, but I know there have been so many, and you have pushed
Right.
through to be at this point, and it doesn't take that much from each of us. You know, if each person
Right.
did a little bit, there would be this huge wave of momentum.
Right.
And that's on us to make that decision to do it. So thank you. I feel like this is a call to action for all of us, starting
Yes, indeed.
asking ourselves, okay, what can I contribute? What can I do? Is it time monetarily? Is it connections and network that I've built and how that can help living beyond the dream? And then acting on it instead of just thinking about it, saying, okay,
Right.
this is what I'm going to do. And so I encourage all of us, myself included, reach out to Shereka, give some ideas to say, okay, these are a couple things that I thought of. Were these helpful? And then she can tell you what would be the best
Right.
way to plug in. How can people connect with you, whether it's website, email, socials? What's the best way to get in contact?
So our website is Beyond a Dream Inc. Everything about us is on there. Then our email address is info@beyondadreaminc.org. So shoot us an email. You can visit our website, and if you reach out, someone will be in contact with you.
Oh, thank you so very much. We will put the details, all the ways that people can get in touch with you in the show notes. And yeah, I do feel like this is just a big call to action. This is a time in our world when we get to stand up and we get to choose to make positive impact and be the
Right.
light. We talk about this, but let's actually be the a light and live it out and come together and not let all the negative things that we see online will start to change the narrative. So
Yes.
thank you so much for the work that you are doing.
Thank you.
I can't wait to check in and see as we get farther into 2026 all of the growth that is happening. And ladies of Fort Mill and all the surrounding areas, if you're tuning in and this touched your heart or you feel like this resonates with you, the passion and really the mission behind Living Beyond a Dream, share it with someone else. Reach out to Shereka, give their social media pages a follow. And if you have questions, you can reach out to us too, and we can put you in contact with Shereka as well. So thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for having me, Leah.
Yeah, just so much good is happening. So we will definitely be connecting soon to see all of the growth that is going on. And ladies, let's all take action. I'm so excited to see the result of all of us standing up and being the light. So until next time, thank you again for tuning in to the Women of Fort Mill podcast. And Shereka, thank you again for your time.
Thank you.